Welcome back to Story Mode. Since meeting Mandy, I've realised that she's been the level-headed one, the one that holds everything together. What would I do without her? Welcome to 2008. Now I have to say the music didn't grab me, but the movies were at least still great. And one of those movies is Tropic Thunder.
Some of us might not make it back.
What do you mean? Like, not on the same flight?
And the movies just keep getting better and better. Step Brothers, Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino, one of my favourites.
That's me.
Man, you crazy, man. Get out of here, man.
Wall-E, which is like an animated version of Short Circuit. And Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man. What a film.
Damn. Good luck keeping up.
My top 3 favourite films of 2008 would have to be Indiana Jones. Look, it's not the best Indiana Jones, but it's not that bad. I think if you watch it again, after the initial fact of it being not as good as the original trilogy, it's not too bad a watch. Number 2 would have to be Dark Knight with Christian Bale. What an absolute ripping film. Initially, I didn't love this film, but over the years, it's grown to be one of my favourite Batmans, and Heath Ledger just owns the Joker. But let's go to my number 1 film, and that is James Bond, Quantum of Solace. Yes, this film copped a lot of slack when it came out. People just did not love this film, especially compared to Casino Royale. But for me, this film kind of got me into James Bond in a big way. That's for another story.
Everywhere, and we know nothing about them.
This is the world's most precious resource. We need to control as much of it as we can.
It's 2008 and Mandy and I are finally talking about getting married within the year. We're looking at guest lists, we're looking at venues, and we're looking at the prices to organise a wedding. On the same day, Mandy had a slight headache, so I decided to make her a good solid dinner for us both, as we've been working so hard. So I gave Mandy her dinner and she just didn't seem right. In fact, she wanted to have dinner in bed. She wanted to lay down, and this was definitely not like her. I handed her her dinner. She walked into the bedroom, and a few seconds later, I heard a crash. I ran in to see what the problem was. Mandy had collapsed. I helped her get to her feet, put her in bed, and I was just in shock. In fact, I was petrified because Mandy was a soldier. This is just not like her. I went and got her a drink of water, a Panadol, and then offered to take her to the hospital, but she didn't want it. She said, I think I just need rest because we're working so incredibly hard. She seemed better the next morning, but not 100%. In fact, she was just laying and resting so much in the morning, and it's just not like her. So I decided to stay at home, and when I did that, she was against it. She said, get to work. Someone needs to work in this house, just in a joking way. So I went to work reluctantly. Before I went to work with Jess made Mandy an amazing breakfast, a real healthy breakfast, plenty of juice and good oats and things like that. And Mandy seemed to pep up a little bit, and she said, I'll have the day off work and I'll go in tomorrow, I'll just spend the day resting. So Jess and I headed off to Pioneer for our jobs. I was a bit nervous because once we got to Pioneer, I found out we actually were going to go to Geelong. Now Geelong is 2 hours away from my house, and if Mandy needed me, well, I wouldn't be there in a hurry. So this was quite frustrating. Luckily, there were only 2 jobs for the day. Jess and I finished the first job, and on our way to the second job, I got a phone call from Mandy. Hopefully it was good, but unfortunately it was worse. Mandy collapsed again. This time she was numb on the left-hand side. I told her to call an ambulance or cancel the next job and meet her at the hospital. She said, no way, you keep working, I'm okay, I think I can drive. And she actually drove herself to the hospital. As I said, she's a soldier.
On your feet, soldier! On your feet!
30 minutes later, she calls me to tell me she's in triage, so she's about to be seen by the doctors, and the problem is the numbness is not going. She's completely numb on the left-hand side of her body, and she's struggling to actually walk. You know, this is making me crazy because I'm at another house installing a TV. I can't be next to her, but Mandy's very stubborn. She was fine. Luckily, Jess and I finished the job pretty quickly and we started heading to the hospital. Jess and I got to the hospital and we ran in to see Mandy, and she did not look great. It just did not look like Mandy. As I said, she's strong and stubborn, and this was just not Mandy. She could barely lift her left arm and her left leg, and the first diagnosis was it was a stroke. After several hours, the doctors decided to do more tests on Mandy. They had to do a lumbar punch in the base of her spine, take more blood, all these type of things. The doctors come around, they said, well, we've got good news, we know what it is, but we don't bring the greatest news to what it is. And then they said it. Mandy had multiple sclerosis. It was like we were in a movie. Mandy never gets sick, Mandy never gives up, and this was the first time that I didn't have my rock. I had to look after Mandy, and Jess just went into a completely different mode. She started putting everything in place with Pioneer. She started to organise another employee that could work with her so I could be home. They quickly said Mandy needs to go into a rehab centre for around 8 weeks. That means she would have to live there and learn how to walk again, learn how to use her arm. And this is something I just could not deal with. Hey, I'm not saying I'm not sympathetic, but I didn't know how to be there for her. So this is something I had to now learn. I had to be the strong one, and I had to make sure we get through things together. I would visit Mandy every single day at the rehab centre, and if for some unknown reason, whether I was looking after the dogs or taking them to the vet or work was overflown, those odd occasions I weren't there, Jess was there to make sure she had a visitor every single day. It was tough, and I mean tough. 8 weeks went by and Mandy came home. Well, as you can imagine, the dogs were jumping up on her. They missed her incredibly. She had a walking stick and sometimes framed for around 6 months until she was fairly stable enough, but it took a long time for her to actually walk normal. And this is the part that threw me. I wanted to help her, but the more I helped, the more I was getting in the way. It was something that ripped my heart out, seeing a young woman go from being so energetic to this. But I had to look at the bright side. There are so many people around the world who have to deal with MS or other diseases. So when we think about it, we were quite lucky. It was about 10 months later and Mandy was starting to run again. And this is something the doctors said would maybe take 4 or 5 years. And this was something we were looking forward to, her just jogging even. It was incredible. It was like watching a baby walk for the first time. And all we hoped is 2009 could finally bring us some luck.